One of the biggest banks in Britain says that Bitcoin is going to 175,000 and that Ethereum could go to 35,000. Is Algorand the next Solana? I'm going to look at all of those charts and all the news driving markets today right now. Let's go.
Let's go.
What's up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button down below, and also check out the $5,000 giveaway that I'm doing. You can check that out down in the description. Now, as I mentioned, there's a ton of news today, a lot happening after Bitcoin has slowly corrected down. Not slowly, actually. After Bitcoin had its major correction, is slowly rising, I should say. We're going to take a slightly different format today. I'm going to start looking at the news and then integrate the charts into that news when appropriate. So first, as I mentioned in the intro, Standard Chartered, a huge British bank, structurally values Ethereum at 26K to 35K. In fact, they did an entire report just on Ethereum called the Ethereum Investor Guide. You can see that report actually right here. You guys can go check out that link. Here's what they said. Structurally, we value Ethereum at USD 26 to 35. But for Ethereum to get there, Bitcoin would need to trade at the top of our valuation range, which is 175K. We see the Ethereum Bitcoin cross doubling to 0.161, a level at which Ethereum's market cap would catch up to Bitcoin. So they are basically saying that there will be a flippening. It would require Bitcoin to get to 175. And the reasons that they're looking at it are the obvious reasons that all of us talk about Ethereum in the first place. Here's what they said. Smart contracts, decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs, DeFi, non-fungible tokens, initial coin offerings. But they warn, despite the myriad applicable use cases Ethereum offers, the bank does say there could be a greater risk than it would be with Bitcoin. I think we all agree Bitcoin is the safer asset, and something I've been saying forever. Ethereum probably has more upside as a trade. I mean, you're talking about effectively almost a 10x here from Ethereum, with Bitcoin only doing a roughly 4 to 5 to make it happen, according to Standard Chartered. But it is amazing to see institutions and banks like this talking about Bitcoin, talking about Ethereum, actually making a case for other coins. It's great for us that they're moving beyond Bitcoin. Whether you agree with it or not, it's a very clear indication that the space is maturing and being viewed very seriously. I love it. So with that in mind, let's take a very quick look at the Ethereum chart. As you can see, this is the Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart, right? Some of us still trade to stack sats. I don't know about the rest of you. A lot of people seem to be trading on the USD-USDT pairs, but there are still plenty of traders who trade on the Bitcoin pairs. As you can see, I had drawn this on the bullish move the other day, saying we should see a retrace down to 0.073242, this black line right here. Well, we went a lot deeper than that, but both of these candles closed and opened right on that line with a wick below. So I'm still expecting a move to the top of the range. As you can see here on the Ethereum USD pair, absolutely impeccable technical analysis and price movement here, right? Had this huge range similar to Bitcoin's where we were trading since the crash in May. We traded right above it here and on this massive dip to the penny almost. I mean, within $1 to test the top of that range before heading back up, seeing tons of demand here. I think that this is likely going to continue up, but it remains to be seen. Either way, I'd be very surprised to see candles closing back below 3,000 and in this range. That would change my bias a bit. But long-term, clearly the case for Ethereum is extremely bullish. So this is only for traders. No reason to even be trading it. Just buy it like I do. I buy it every single day on Invest Voyager using RoundTheX. Now, as for Bitcoin, Bitcoin stabilizes around 46K after sell-off, resistance at 50K. This article is actually from yesterday. Upside appears to be limited despite short-term relief buying. Let's see why they said that. They said RSI in the 4-hour is the most oversold since August 6th breakout above 42K. Great. However, this upside appears to be limited as RSI on the daily chart is declining, and a lower price high from April is likely as volatility returns this month, limiting buyer strength in the aftermath of Tuesday's sell-off. We know that September has been historically a kind of crappy month for Bitcoin, but let's take a look at the chart. They are talking about that 200 MA right there. Well, here it is, right? We have the 200 MA in red. I am not a huge MA trader. I definitely do not love golden and death crosses. You can see this death cross right here happen near the bottom when a lot of people thought it was going to send price down to 10K or below. Absolutely absurd, of course. And we have a potential golden cross coming here, which could send price up. But we know that that's largely a result of this price movement and not predicting further movement. Although these crosses are more interesting when price is sitting right on them. So if price remains here and this crosses, these would both be acting theoretically as support. But as you can see, wick down to the 50 MA, that's the blue line, and holding the 200 MA as support on all three of these candles. Big wick down, closed right on it yesterday and opened on it today and heading up. We're back over 47,000. Not too shabby at all. Drilling into the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin, as you can see, we had this massive trading range, much like the Ethereum chart that I showed you. The dip on May 19th, this is where it bounced back up to, right around 43,000. And then it took a very long time to get out of that range. Well, now here we are on the 4-hour chart, testing it almost to the dollar on the drop. That's exactly where it died. We thought maybe it would get down to 42,000, but it did not get there yet. Could still go down there, of course, but for now, no reason to expect that yet. That could happen. We do see rising volume now, rising bullish volume, pushing back through this old demand here, which has become resistant. So we want to see this area flipped. Basically, it close up here, flip it, and then I think that gives us a target more up here around 49.50K. For now, this looks like accumulation. The question is it some sort of bear pennant or bear flag? Doesn't look like it for now, to be honest. Looks more like we had this sort of flat top here around 46,500 that broke up to the top, a bit of an ascending triangle or something like that. And as you can see, this is the RSI they were talking about in the 4-hour. It reached 24. First time it's been oversold in quite a while. Hadn't been oversold, I guess, since July. Quite a while, and seems we're getting a nice little bounce out of that. But yet again, this could be bearish consolidation for another move down. You know what I'm always looking for in this situation, right? This is the line chart, so it's based on closes. I'm looking for something like this, right? We get a slightly lower low on price and a slightly higher low on RSI, giving us bullish divergence coming out of oversold. That is the greatest bottom signal that we have for Bitcoin historically, 4-hour oversold bullish divergence. Now, diving in, buying the dip, third largest Bitcoin wallet just bought 23 million worth of Bitcoin. Wow. Third biggest wallet continuing to buy has added tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of Bitcoin since 65K, buying every single dip. This Tuesday was no different, took advantage of the lower prices and bought around 47,000 and have been buying ever since. This is a huge amount. They hold over 4,000 Bitcoin more than they did at the all-time high of 65,000. Absolutely astounding seeing what these big wallets can do, but you want to be on the side of the whales, not trading against them. And everything indicates that the biggest wallets and whales are continuing to buy Bitcoin. Do you want to be the sucker who sells it to them? Not me, not so much. Mike Novogratz says Bitcoin's drop is air being popped out of a balloon. Mike Novogratz was also on the opening scene of Billions this week, which just came back for the back half of season 5. You should check that out, even though that show has kind of sucked horribly since season 2. Just being honest. But I have high hopes for the rest of the season, and Novogratz was there at the beginning. The billionaire crypto bull says investors got too excited, but still believes a digital asset is a store of value in the long run. Listen, he said some obvious things, right? I mean, on the first run up, we saw laser eyes and Bitcoin's going to 5 million, 10 million. Well, we just saw a billion from Fidelity, right? And then obviously you see a rinse of leverage. You see a bit of that retail excitement diminished, and then you see price rising again. Well, this time he points to things like Visa buying an NFT for $150,000, Amazon posting a blockchain job, things like that, all signs that a new bubble was sort of forming and that this has popped a little bit on Tuesday. A little air came out of the balloon. He did not say it popped, said a bit of air came out of the balloon. Hard to argue with that when you see price drop, but it remains to be seen what will happen from here out. But it's always interesting when you see even the most bullish people take a slightly cautious approach. Probably means it will go like straight to 100,000. Moving on to Solana. Holy wow, Solana tops 200 as Google search data shows peak retail interest. Retail investors have a reputation for being the last entrants in a bull run. Yes, retail tends to buy the top of huge moves, both with Bitcoin, altcoin, and other assets, to be quite honest. So now it's time to take a look and say, hey, is Solana topped? Well, I'm not going to be the fool who would ever try to short Solana, right? This is a parabolic move. You could be right about the fact that a bubble's coming after it goes up another 50%. But it is time to start thinking, hey, maybe this has gotten a little bit out of control and Solana's gone nuts. Considering it still is going up even with the market correcting. Absolutely bananas, right? And Steve Harvey is the new face of Solana's NFT boom. No, he's not. No, he's not. People who care about Solana don't give a shit about Steve Harvey. Let's be real. Steve Harvey is old. borderline irrelevant, certainly not a huge cryptocurrency audience favorite, but he did change his Twitter avatar to some sort of NFT on Solana, a Solana monkey business NFT. I think that's great, but I think it's completely ridiculous to act like Solana is now rising and made a new all-time high because of Steve Harvey. This is just the media looking for something to talk about. Solana's made an all-time high basically every single day. Basically every single day. This is a result of retail FOMO and hype, as you can see from the Google searches, and not because one of the kings of comedy, honestly, he's not even the best king of comedy, but because one of the kings of comedy has changed his Twitter avatar. We're just looking for a story here, but let's look at the chart. I mean, as I said, absolutely parabolic move. This was a newsletter trade down here, I believe, right around $31, or at least on a video, on the breakout of this descending resistance, and another here at 36 bucks. Since then, all you had to do is draw levels and buy them when it flipped, 58 being the last chance to do that. And then once again, 131. All these key levels were skipped, right? Completely front run, absolute FOMO, price rising. We had another sort of idea that was here. So anytime you see things forming like this, the horizontal resistance, you get the breakup and continuation. Tuesday was an epic opportunity, right? If you believe this is going to keep rising, because this was a baby with the bathwater situation. The entire market dropped. Solana was still bullish. The baby was thrown out with the bathwater, as they like to say. It immediately pumped and continued up. But guys, this is getting a little bananas here. I would proceed with caution and not start FOMOing into a potential top on Solana, even though it looks amazing. So what do we have to talk about then? Well, if Solana went, then we have to talk about the next Solana, right? Obviously, Algorand tokens, his highest price in more than 2 years, despite market sell-off. Price of Algorand's algo tokens has jumped more than threefold this year, leading to a market cap of more than $6 billion. This is really interesting. I've been talking about this a lot. And even I sort of, not to say was dismissive about Algorand, but it was sort of the forgotten redheaded stepchild of the layer one world, right? We've been talking about, well, will DOT come next? We saw Avalanche go nuts. We saw Solana go nuts. We've seen all of these layer ones go absolutely crazy. And nobody was talking about Algorand except for a few people. I did hear saying whispers, hey, if layer ones are going nuts, shouldn't Algorand be next to go or be up there? I mean, this is a coin that's, led by an absolute genius, Silvio Macaulay. I mean, the guy is an MIT professor and Turing Award winner, right? They're backed by some of the biggest venture capital in the space and have a legitimately impressive tech. So if we start to see adoption on Algorand, this could be the next Solana. But to me, that's just a stupid comparison. The only reason that they're saying that is because it's another layer one. I would just like to see all of these layer ones find their niche, continue to rise, compete with Ethereum, and then have everything be interoperable. That's the world I'm looking for. I don't like to talk about Ethereum killers. I don't think there's a next Ethereum or a next Solana. I think that all of these can succeed and find their niche. But let's take a look at the Algorand chart. We were looking at it yesterday on the stream. I said right here, now you're coming into resistance, wait for a break of the high. This is not an all-time high, by the way, in the Bitcoin pair, right? That's way, way, way up here. So this is really just some accumulation after bottoming. You can even draw that range down to here, but we are breaking out of this. So this should be making a move up to around 0.0006469, right? And from where we drew that, that's about almost double, not quite, but almost double. I don't know if you'll get this retest, but if you do, that's where you want to buy this. That's the range highs. But I know that all of you are probably trading on the Algo USDT pair. That has made almost what we would consider an all-time high. This is one of those I talked about on my video yesterday. It's hard because you don't necessarily want to count when an exchange first lists a token. That price action is almost fake. This first day candle is irrelevant. So this is effectively in price action in my mind. Had the break here, ranged here forever, and finally breaking out above the recent highs, right? So this also, if you saw what Luna did, if you saw what Solana did, any of these coins that have gone to price discovery, you buy the dip and watch them head into price discovery. If you can get this back at 1.84, it may never come back, but this is where you buy the previous, what I will call the all-time high, and then a move up. Absolutely massive moves from Algorand, and look at that volume, the biggest it has ever seen over the past 2 days. And we're only halfway through this day. It looks like this candle could even exceed the highs of the previous one. Absolutely massive. This is definitely the story of the day or days in my mind. I talked about this quite a bit yesterday. SEC threatened to sue Coinbase over lending products, CEO says. The securities regulator is threatening to sue Coinbase should the exchange launch its Lend product, Brian Armstrong claimed in a Twitter thread. What's so interesting here is that the SEC refuses to give any clear guidance to any company dealing in cryptocurrency in the United States, but then expects them to use their crystal balls and their unicorn fairy dust to make guesses at what they're allowed to do. It's absolutely ridiculous. The SEC, it's time for you to step up and give us some clarity. Even if it's not the clarity that we want, we need to know what kind of framework these companies can work within. The basic story here is that Coinbase said, we're going to start a Lend product, 4% interest. They're not even allowed to call it interest, but 4% on USDC. We've seen obviously companies like BlockFi, Voyager, Celsius, Nexo, and many others offering 10% plus. They said, we're going to do a conservative 4%. Very easy for us to earn it. It's going to be very stable and safe. They took it to the SEC and said, this is what we're going to do. Do you guys approve? The SEC said, no, this is a security, refused to say why, wouldn't put it on paper, and then said, we're going to sue you if you launch this product. Sue you. Why is the SEC even talking about suing people? Can't they just, I don't know, come up with a law and regulate and not sue a company and use lawyers like a bunch of little pansies to stop things? This is absurd. We were very excited about Gary Gensler when he first came into office, but clearly he has the intention to regulate everything and do it with an extremely heavy hand. This is not ideal. And whatever you think of Coinbase, you should hope that they push back and that they win. Mark Cuban agrees. Mark Cuban urges Coinbase to go on the offensive against the SEC. He's gone up against the SEC before, and this was his advice to Brian Armstrong. He didn't say how to do it, but he said much of the similar of what I just said. He says, see here it says he has experience fighting them in court and thinks that Coinbase should be more aggressive. So they should go on the offensive after being threatened to sue. Here's what he said. Brian, this is regulation via litigation. Cuban tweeted. They aren't capable of working through this themselves and are afraid of making mistakes in doing so. They leave it to the lawyers, just the people you don't want impacting the new technologies. You have to go on the offensive. He's absolutely right in this case. Absolutely right. It should not be up to the lawyers to decide what the crypto industry can do in the United States. Regulators are kicking the can down the road, punting the ball, hoping that somebody else will make a decision for them. But they are stifling innovation in the United States. The United States used to be a country that led in technological innovation. We are so far behind on crypto and going to be last in line if we continue to have jackassery like this from our regulators. Robinhood adds recurring daily crypto purchases starting at $1 whole. Robinhood has joined other crypto companies in offering recurring purchases, but without charging fees. Great, no fees. You can buy $1 worth of Bitcoin, buy it every single day. Probably Dogecoin if you're trading on Robinhood is what you're actually interested. This is great for mainstream adoption. This is absolutely what we need to see. Robinhood encouraging people to dollar cost average responsibly instead of, FOMOing into meme stocks at the top. If we see more of this, it gives more people confidence in platforms that they're comfortable with to slowly invest in Bitcoin, get familiar with it, get familiar with crypto, and then maybe down the road start to trade. But this is the absolute approach that most of you should be taking. I talked about it before. I do this with Bitcoin and Ethereum on different platforms, but primarily with Ethereum, I round up on Round the X just like Acorns, right? It takes all my credit card transactions, rounds them up, multiplies them by 10, and then buys me Ethereum every single day with whatever that balance is. I've made an astounding amount of money doing that for the past few years. Dollar cost averaging slowly without worrying about price is the way to go. Bitcoin hungry Ukraine moves to legalize cryptocurrency. Ukrainians have heavily adopted Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Soon they may get the stamp of approval from their government. To be clear, a lot of people are comparing this to what's happening in El Salvador. It is not the case. This is literally just making it legal for them to even have bank accounts tied to crypto exchanges, for crypto exchanges to operate in Ukraine, even things that we see in the slow ass moving Titanic ship of the United States. This is not adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. It's literally just making it legal so that people can operate in this country and even begin to trade cryptocurrency. Still a massive move, but do not get it twisted. This is not on par with El Salvador making Bitcoin legal tender. In the NFT space, OpenSea bug destroys 100,000 worth of NFTs, including historical ENS name. No reason to really get too deeply into this story. Just understand that even with the platforms we trust, we are still in a very new space, a nascent industry, and there is always risk that applies to NFTs, not just to Bitcoin and not your keys, not your crypto or any of those things. Even holding your NFTs on a platform like OpenSea carries some risk. And finally, this is going back, honestly, to what we just saw in the Robinhood news. Bitcoin and meme stock traders are tired of buying the dip. Cryptocurrency, equity, and SPAC fans use the phrase to rally support on social media with their investments. When their investments sink, does it actually work? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, it actually works. I'm not going to get into the whole article because they basically just found a few random people who are like, I'm sick of buying the dip, bro. I lost money. And then they name some crappy asset or random altcoin you've never heard of as the reason they're sick of buying the dip. Buying the dip absolutely works, but it comes with a caveat. You don't just buy the dip on anything and then panic sell at the bottom because you're sick of losing money. You find strong assets that you want to hold for decades, and then you dollar cost average and buy the dip. You don't buy the dip because of what you think the price will be next week. And that's what they completely miss in this article. And when you hear people saying they're sick of buying the dip or it's bad advice, if you buy a piece of shit on the dip, it will still be a piece of shit when it bottoms, obviously, right? But if you buy Bitcoin on every single dip or stocks, even historically, you just see the trend going up and to the right. And that's what you will want to see. It absolutely works, but the caveat is that it requires tremendous patience for it to work well. Guys, that is all the news. What a mouthful. I hope you enjoyed how I had the news and the charts integrated a bit instead of just diving right into the charts at the beginning. Now, a few housekeeping things here I want to tell you about. First of all, please check out everything I have in the description. We have that giveaway that I talked about. $5,000, 10 prizes of $500. It's just me giving back to the community, trying to make a push to 100K followers. That seemed like a great metric and place to do it. But if I get there, I'm going to give away a whole lot of money. You guys just subscribe to the channel and click the link down below. Also, today's newsletter, which should be out in about an hour, that will be free. Every 2 weeks, the newsletter is completely free. Sign up. It'll be delivered directly into your inbox. The link for that is down below too. There's two tabs. There's a member tab and a free tab. Just click on the free tab, sign up for that so you can check that out. It comes out actually 5 days a week. It's $15 a month, but there's a free version every 2 weeks, and it started free and will remain always having a free version. Always, always. And most excitingly, today, at 2 p.m. Eastern Daily Time, I'm doing an AMA with Scott Stewart from Kava. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of Kava. They've been supporting my live stream. So finally getting the opportunity to sit down with them and for you guys to ask them any questions you have, especially about DeFi and security in DeFi, which I'm really interested in talking about after we see all these hacks and issues and a lot of hesitancy for people to enter the space as a result. Luke just asked, Scott, what are the last few words of your intro tune? That's dope. That's dope. Guys, please check out everything I have in the description. Come back and hang out at 2 p.m. Eastern Daily Time. I love you guys for showing up. Please go get some of my money as well. Until later, peace out.